Good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of the First Unitarian Church, I welcome you into this space this morning. We gather to celebrate our shared ministry with the Reverend Mark Stringer, and we make this space sacred with the spirit of love and friendship that we bring. We have known Mark Stringer as our minister, our worship leader, our institutional leader, our supervisor, our colleague, our pastor. As pastor, he has been our officiant at the important rites and passages of our lives. We carry images of him blessing our children with earth, fire even, with water and air. We have known him as officiant at our weddings, with one member sharing, he clearly knew what he was doing, because against all odds, the marriage has worked. We bring images of Mark as the compassionate officiant at our beloved's memorial services. We have heard him share our memories, painting a picture of each human life, sacred in its being born and sacred in its dying. We have known Mark as our institution's visionary, with images of him being willing to encourage the first capital campaign for our church since the building was built. A member shared just 5 years into his ministry, Mark helped us tackle what we thought we couldn't do. He helped us believe in ourselves and believe that if we remodeled and added on to our existing building, indeed, new members and new vitality would follow. And so we did. We bring images of Mark as the big picture thinker, with a calm presence, sending thoughtfully detailed emails when needed, and at other times not sending long, thoughtfully detailed emails when it would be better to talk in person. We have images of Mark being prepared, strategic, and organized, so much so that I had to have a chuckle on the chancel last week that Mark had prepared for his final sermon 16 years ago with his first sermon. I carry the image of Mark being giddy about planning the preaching schedule a year ahead of time. We carry images of Mark Stringer leading the congregation through a thoughtful process to bring a second minister into the congregation. Images of his persistent commitment to growing our congregation. As one member noted, he nurtured growth in membership numbers and also in programming, staff, and a healthy ability to deal with whatever issues arise in a community of people with often strong opinions. We can hear him in our minds regularly inserting Bowen system theory into a conversation or sermon, as well as comments about the ends or policy-based governance. We carry images of him navigating our budget from a place of abundance. And in worship, we will carry the image of him saying that membership truly starts when you're disappointed and you come back anyway. The image of a leader who sets the bar high for the church and for himself, even as he regularly encourages us to lower the bar, to just take some action to move us forward and experiment. We carry sound bites of him saying, "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." That's not my table. And to remember that to bring about change, we only have to worry about keeping our own dominoes standing. We carry the image of a strong leader, of our beloved preacher and talented sermon writer. Images of this tall man in a dark suit, sharing beautiful imagery and sentiments, and then doing something totally outrageous in the middle of his preaching, where it might lead everyone to laughing, or to him himself laughing so hard he has to stop for a while. Images of him telling us about some of his work before he came to our congregation, where he was performing that work in a diaper, or in Cupid clad in tights as a singing telegram in his first service. We carry images of him knowing how to work the microphone using his acting training. One member shared, "My most vivid memory of Mark is when he took the pulpit after September 11th. The sanctuary was full, all of us looking for something, anything, to make sense of what was happening. He delivered a thoughtful, heartfelt sermon that gave us no answers, but helped us give voice to what we were feeling. Perhaps that set the tone for Mark's entire ministry, willing to wade into whatever was going on, no matter how painful, no matter what had long gone unspoken. Mark was up to the challenge of challenging us. We could be complacent no more." We carry images of him as a socially minded activist and preacher, looking up at a rally with pride to see Mark Stringer's face there, speaking, proclaiming our faith and the call for justice. Images of him speaking at the State House in support of same-sex marriage. We see him marrying the first gay couple in the front lawn of his house, unshaven, unshowered, in Bermuda shorts. We carry images of him inviting us to our first AMIS meeting, images of him leading the board of Project Iowa, images of him encouraging us to proclaim that Black lives matter. We also carry images, and you've heard it already this morning, of his laughter. And if you've spent thanks for that. And if you know Mark and you've spent time with him, you know it's not just a chuckle. It is this loud, full-bodied, raucous, as a staff member called it, from the soul, embodiment of his joy. And his laughter is often accompanied by the need to go, boom! Which I heard many a time through my office wall. And it is a great way to be interrupted in the day. We carry images of him remembering and being a member of the Zenda fan club. I've never met this woman, but I tell you, I've heard so much about her, including the story where she would bring a big, thick book into worship, and she said to Mark, "Just in case I get bored." To which Mark laughed and said, "I love her," which was a peculiar thing to hear when I first got to the church. One member shared that Mark's legacy is already evident, that we can see and hear much excitement about the next phase of what's going to happen in the life of our congregation. And members are sad to see Mark leave, but she said, "We're also curious and open to the possibilities that an interim minister and a newly called minister will bring. A great leader prepares those that he or she has served for what comes after their tenure. We have been well served indeed." We bring many images of sharing the ministry of our church with Mark Stringer for the last 16 years. Images of his radiant laughter, his positive attitude, his faith in us, his ability to open our hearts, to uplift and inspire our minds, even when he was leading a memorial, in fact, especially when he was leading a memorial. We bring images of a talented minister whose example can't help but encourage us in our own living. It is no wonder then that we bring images of a man who is deeply beloved by his church and community. In our remembering, we celebrate not only who he is and has been among us, but also what his ministry has meant and will continue to mean in the years ahead. I invite you to join me in the chalice line. Life is a gift for which we are grateful.
We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift.
So let us kindle now the flame of our our liberal religious heritage.
In its flow, and our reason and our passion, lead us to be true to ourselves, true to each other, and true to what we can together become.
Good morning, I'm David Racy. I was a member of the search committee. I'd like to just repeat all of Aaron's eloquent remarks, but since they've already been taken, I'll give my own, which is a view of the search process from the search committee's point of view. Back before Reverend Stringer accepted our call, we were served by a number of very able and much-loved ministers, but our church population continued to remain pretty much the same. We, at some point, made a congregational decision, a very intentional decision, to seek to become a larger, more programmatic, more vibrant church. This had a lot to do with our calling of the next minister. Growth in a church, at least in the Unitarian church here, was not a unanimous position. Some people liked having the same people that they saw at coffee after the service every week. Growth involves challenges. It involves complexity. We must become more programmatic. It requires additional staff. It requires additional volunteer work. It requires nurturing of the congregation by all of these people. And we were fortunate enough that this all came to pass. It did take us out of our comfort zone, but had it not done so, had we not made this decision, I don't think we would be here today honoring Mark Stringer. My take on these events began in a board meeting when Thea Neatfeld, Reverend Neatfeld, announced that she was going to resign. This was a complete shock to me, and I think to most or all of the members present. But we went ahead and formed an interim search committee, which consisted of Ellen Taylor and Elaine Rockwell and myself, and we were fortunate enough to secure the services of Reverend Annie Holmes. I think Ellen probably did most of the work, but Elaine and I were so satisfied with the way that worked out that we subsequently stood for election to the ministerial search committee and ended up being co-chairs. Reverend Holmes, during her tenure, was a true professional. She helped prepare the ground for our subsequent settled minister, and was just a delight in so many ways. She gave us visible proof of what a minister should and can do with her actions at the pulpit, bedside, wherever. Many congregants also suggested to us later that she would make an excellent settled minister, but Annie was a professional, as I said. She continued on as an interim and was never a candidate. When we elected the committee, we had a 2-year commitment, and we became very, very close. I'd like to mention and thank each of the participants in that committee, which include Janice Ketcher, Mary Ellen Neal, Pam Olin, Walter Tomlinson, whom I see here today, and Ellen Hutchison. In addition, I'd like to thank our unofficial 8th member, Denise Mernka, who provided many, many hands-on types of services in getting things done. During our 2-year process, we put together 2 physical objects. One was a survey of the church membership. It asked a number of different questions, and of course it was put together by amateurs and looked like it, but I think it at least provided something of a snapshot of what our congregation was like for Mark and other candidates to see. Mark, of course, was at the time a seminary student, and he was the one we liked. We knew, however, that some of our members had in mind seeking a more experienced minister, and in fact, I think some people believe that an implicit obligation to do so had been created by the church decision to increase the compensation package in hopes of attracting better candidates. However, each of the members of the search committee had our own thoughts about what was important, and we decided that Mark Stringer was head and shoulders above any other candidate. When a ministerial search committee evaluates potential candidates, we recognize that there are many facets to the job of being a minister to an active, growing congregation. And we can't see all of those. We don't see counseling sessions. We don't see how the minister interacts with staff and with other people. We can look at the services and try to extrapolate from what we see there. One afternoon, I was listening on my home stereo to a series of services that had been put together by candidates, and I was listening to the best one when Marilyn from the next room said, "Who is that guy? I like him." Well, guess who it was? Everybody on the search committee also agreed with that, and we met with Mark. He put on a service in Ames with 2 carloads of Unitarians sitting in the back trying to look inconspicuous. And afterwards, hearing from members of the Ames congregation that they really liked this guy too. That same weekend, I think we tried to sneak him into a social event at the church. I think he maybe showed up with one of the members of the search committee, looking as inconspicuous as ever. But in any event, he chose to accept our call and came for a candidating week, in which he presented 2 services and was around the church talking to congregants as they came and went, and dealing with a number of really formidable people. Dwight Saunders comes to mind. But he still accepted our call. This came via a vote of the congregation following that candidating week, and at least initially was a source of some concern for me, because I knew that some people really thought that an experienced minister was essential or even had been promised. But during that the debate or the discussion that preceded the vote, the chief skeptic came out in favor of Mark, and the vote turned out to be a ringing affirmation, which is exactly what we wanted. The search committee was just tickled to death. I myself consider that to be one of the most emotionally satisfying moments of my life so far. And I wasn't the minister, I was just there for him. I haven't asked Mark about his reaction to the roar that rang out, but I'm sure he heard it from down the hall, and I'm sure he liked it. After he started, Mark came on like gangbusters and was in the pulpit week after week after week, giving us carefully organized and coordinated services that all were built around his lesson for that week, which always was drawn from his own experience, in a way that we later came to understand was probably creative interchange at work. And we loved it. It continued on. We've all seen Mark do memorial services that made us want to know the decedent much more than we ever did in the past. Mark has done weddings that I've enjoyed. Other people have seen other facets of this minister, which would involve counseling services and a bit of support when people needed it. And just in general, things worked out for 16 years. One additional thing I'd like to point out is that, because Mark has mentioned this a couple of times to me, is that during this process, my wife Marilyn said, listen, you got to have somebody with pizzazz. And we on the search committee sort of adopted that as something that we wanted to look for in our minister. On reflection, though, even though Mark has plenty of pizzazz, what we really wanted is what we got, and that is a minister who can demonstrate empathy. Mark shows empathy every day in every way. He does it from the pulpit. He speaks to the empathy in each of us and seeks to draw it forward. This is a characteristic that I think that the next search committee should keep in mind in looking for not a replacement, but a successor to Reverend Stringer. Mark shows that empathy every day. He's been a joy to be around, to work with, and we bid him farewell.
Hello, good morning.
My name is Kathy Jorgensen, and I am a thankful, longtime member of this church. I have been a UU for almost 30 years, most of which have been with this church. My parents actively raised me in the Catholic Church, a place that is still very important to them. It was through their example that I grew to understand the value of finding and sharing with my own family a meaningful church community. So, as a young adult, after I abandoned my childhood conceptions of God, still feeling a connection to something greater than myself and yearning to find the meaning of life, I sought a place where I could get in touch with my spiritual side and found a home in the UU Church. One of the reasons I was drawn to this religion is that there is a space for God, but it is not required. I wanted a place where I could develop my faith, even though I didn't believe in a God. A place where my girls could learn and question the countless different religious teachings. I have always felt that all religions are rooted in kindness towards others and bring out the best in people regardless of the differing beliefs. And I have never in my heart felt or described the UU Church as one where only non-believers were allowed. But I do recall a time way back when I didn't always feel that our congregation came across as very spiritual or religiously open to Christians or other believers. I remember the discomfort I felt way back when members would openly poke fun at or speak sarcastically about certain religions, or when members would object to the use of words like God, prayer, worship, and even sanctuary. I couldn't help but wonder what those in this church who did believe in a God were thinking, and what would a newcomer feel? As an atheist, I have been on the receiving end of contempt and pity because of my religious beliefs, and it doesn't feel good. So I am grateful that at a time when my soul needed it, and our community needed it, Mark stepped in and wholeheartedly, through his sermons, community involvement with interfaith groups, meaningful prayer and meditations, Soul Matters, small group ministry, and countless other activities created an atmosphere that enabled us to become spiritually rich and religiously inclusive for all, welcoming and respectful. One that not only increased my understanding of religion and the concept of God, but which also enriched and strengthened my soul. Probably my favorite sermon, among so many favorites, was one Mark gave 2.5 years ago entitled, Believing Even When I Don't. That Sunday, Mark spoke about how when we respond to faiths unlike our own, there will be either positive or negative consequences that can impact relationships. Through his personal experiences, Mark communicated how we can be flexible and responsive rather than limited in our own bias or certainty about matters of faith. In that sermon, Mark referred to creative interchange, something which he had discussed with us previously, as something that could empower us to be open to change, to understand the perspectives of others and integrate these understandings into our own. It was about having respectful conversations intended to help us grow. Mark has encouraged this congregation to grow our own religious and spiritual perspectives by engaging with the viewpoints of others. This atmosphere of regard and inclusion has enabled our members, both individually and collectively, to succeed spiritually within and outside of these doors. I appreciate that I do not have to be right about my personal beliefs, and that I can be inspired by those with differing faith of my own, because I trust that there are as many notions of a higher power than there are people in this world. And it is my expectation that all who come through our doors are able to connect with what inspires and matters to them, regardless of where they are coming from. Des Moines is a diverse community, and thankfully, our growing church is a community of diversity. Today, I am here to thank my higher power for Mark, and to thank you, Mark, for helping grow this congregation spiritually these past 16 years.
Morning, I'm Sally Buckle. So this day, I had to finally, seriously get down to the deep gratitude I feel to Mark for his ministry to our congregation, for the transformation of our church, and of myself as a result of his ministry. Several months ago, Mark reminded me of our first conversation, which occurred the week he was candidating with us prior to being called. Small group ministry, the shared ministry of the laity to one another, was the topic of our conversation. I was a relatively new member, and I wanted to know, I'd heard about this kind of program, I don't know, read it somewhere, or heard people talking about it from other churches, and I wanted to know if this new minister had any interest in this kind of program. He responded, yes. The results of that conversation ultimately transformed my life. And my connection to our congregation through small group ministry, through Wellspring, and through Soul Workers. For as long as I can remember, there's been a framed print behind Mark's desk. Many of you have seen it, maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't. It's an excerpt from the poem Yes by Muriel Rukeyser. And it says, "Open your eyes, dream but don't guess. Your biggest surprise comes after yes." Mark brought to us a theology based on Henry Nelson Wyman's creative interchange that through our connections with one another, through deep listening and open listening to one another, that we could be changed and deepened. This theology made room for yes, for the risk of trying something new, more possible. Transformation was invited, expected, and celebrated. In our shared ministry, yes was the basis of our vocabulary. The idea of yes and, not yes but. The belief that saying yes to what we dreamed of becoming, we could discover, once we dreamed it, we could discover the way to get there. Yes, let's explore, let's discuss, let's conspire, let's act. We began by saying yes, then we built the how. Of our capital improvements, of our governmental structure, of our staff vitality, of our work in the community through Amos and other avenues, of our growing, changing, still and ever evolving ministry to one another and the wider community. Yes, strongly and courageously articulated, preceded every step. Did we succeed every time? No. No. Did we make everyone happy all the time? No. Did we minister to one another and to our community at large? Yes. And yes. Even when it didn't give us the results that we hoped for, we learned. We wanted to grow, to forgive, to love, to take the next courageous step together. I believe that this will be the true legacy of Mark's ministry to us. To have helped to create a bold and creative congregation, open to life, expecting to love, and prepared to serve with a resounding yes. Thank you, Mark.
A Polk County judge ruled an Iowa law prohibiting same-sex couples from getting married is unconstitutional. Within hours of that decision, it was put on hold, but not before one couple made it through the I do's. Channel 13's Janae Town spoke with the first pastor to legally marry a gay couple in Iowa, and now he's sharing why he did it.
I said, "You're wed. It's legal."
And with those words, Reverend Mark Stringer made history in Iowa. The wedding ceremony between Sean Fritz and Timothy McQuillan that took place in the front yard of his Drake neighborhood home would later be seen across the country and around the world.
I realized the historic event that it truly was and what it means for so many couples in our nation who do not yet have the right to marry.
As minister of First Unitarian Church of Des Moines, Stringer has been a longtime advocate for gay and lesbian rights. So when asked if he would perform the state's first same-sex marriage that very day, he didn't give it a second thought. But his decision has drawn criticism.
The negative emails will typically invoke the Bible and religion, and I can understand that, but I think this is a civil rights issue.
From here on out, August 31st will be a significant date for same-sex couples in Iowa. For Stringer, the date already holds a special place in his heart.
8/31. Check it out, it's my anniversary.
11 years ago, Stringer and his wife exchanged rings and vows. And now he says it's a proud moment to share his anniversary with the first two men to legally marry in Iowa.
So we decided that that was going to be our anniversary present to each other, that we were able to use our front lawn to give people the right to marry.
Do you believe in signs that whisper inside your mind till you have to follow through, leading you home again to someplace you've never been? Well, I feel that way for you. How can it be true? The first time I see you, I look into your eyes. Suddenly I knew you all my life, all my life, all my life. Suddenly I knew you all my life. Don't we have all that time, a treasure that's yours and mine, and a place that we call home? And don't we have photographs taken a long time back of the seasons we have known? I know it's strange to say when we just met this way. Look into your eyes. Suddenly I knew you all my life. So I'll take the chance and tell you before the chance is gone. So at least I won't be wondering the rest of my life long. Could you believe in signs that whisper inside your mind till you have to follow through, leading you home again to someplace you've never been? Well, I feel that way for you. Or how can it be true? The first time I see you, I look into your eyes. Suddenly I knew you all my life, all my life, all my life. Suddenly I knew you all my life, all my life, all my life. All my life.
thank yous to you and put them in this beautiful book. And I just love it. So beautifully choreographed. And basically, it's an expression of our gratitude to you for your time with us since 2001. And while Sunday mornings are obviously important, as I said in my little piece, the part that I also remember are the things you've been hearing all morning long, which is that you've helped us navigate some of the biggest changes that I can remember in my 40 years in this congregation. We doubled our membership. We renovated our lovely 50-year-old building, now 60 years old. And you helped us launch ourselves solidly out into the community with Amos. So, thank you. There's nothing more. Thank you so much.
Of all of the memories of Mark that I will carry with me, I think what I will remember most are his sermons. I think many of you will agree that Mark has a true gift when it comes to sermons. The way he seamlessly connected stories from his own life to universal themes and experiences. Those sermons made us think and laugh and cry, usually in the same sermon. But he also had some good training at the Meeville Lombard Theological School. Today we have the opportunity to honor Mark and the UU ministry through our generosity. Today's offering will go to the Unitarian Universalist Living Tradition Fund, Established at General Assembly in 1988, the Living Tradition Fund provides support for UU ministry that includes need-based scholarships for theological students who have completed a full year of theological education, new minister assistance to reduce the burden of high educational debt and repayment, and grants to ministers for emergency assistance. Now, more than ever, there is a need to develop our faith's future leaders and to grow our welcoming, open, and justice-seeking faith in Central Iowa and beyond. Let us be grateful for all that we can give. Let us be grateful for all that we receive.
A customary feature at services of installation in our tradition is that a minister of another church offers a charge to the congregation, a set of thoughtful instructions and challenges to the members to work with the minister being installed and with each other to embody the very best of what can be possible in the days to come. The charge is a time when the visiting minister might name some difficult things that need to be named for the good of all. You can think of it as an intentional stirring of the pot, a loving agitation on a day of celebration. It seems fitting to me that at this service of my de-installation, I would offer a charge to you. However, I'm going to trade loving agitation today for loving celebration, because that's what I feel. Agitation is actually the furthest thing from my mind at this moment. I'll leave agitation to the interim minister. And I'll wish her and you well with that. And so, for this charge, I celebrate you. I celebrate you and our 16 years of shared ministry. I celebrate the search committee who took the chance to choose me as your candidate. David's already named them, I'm going to do it again. Thank you to David Racy, Elaine Rockwell, Walter Tomlinson, Pam Oland, Mary Ellen Neal, Janice Ketcher, and Alan Hutchinson, who saw me as a fit for the ministry here, even amidst some pushback that I didn't have the experience the congregation preferred. You stood by me, and I'll be forever grateful for the opportunity that you gave me. I celebrate the members of this congregation, past and present, who encouraged me, even when my sermons missed the mark, or when they were too wordy, or when I relied too heavily on quotes of other people, or when I chose unfamiliar or unsingable hymns for services. You seemed to understand that I was always my harshest critic, and you loved me through it. I celebrate all those who joined me for working groups and think tanks, those who put together with me the successful programs and sometimes not so successful programs that a vibrant church must try in order to keep reaching for what will work. I always felt empowered here to try things and to lead because so many of you were willing to journey with me and make mistakes with me, and more often than not, to succeed with me. I'm grateful for your trust and for your creative contributions. I celebrate all the boards of trustees with whom I have worked, 16 in number, those who helped navigate and oversee capital campaigns, shifts in governance, and a few different rounds of strategic planning. I celebrate the councils and the committees and all those who participated in the leadership of this congregation in any way. You did your part to help this church be the best that it possibly could be, and look what you helped create. I celebrate those members, past and present, who have humbly and tenaciously participated in the pursuit of justice, who have inspired me by your willingness to show up for rallies and Amos events and other acts of witness in the community. By your examples, you have helped me be a better minister, a better citizen, and a better person. I celebrate the remarkable staff I've had the pleasure to work with and to know during my time here, and I celebrate the congregation for your generous pledges so that we could pay them fairly, even as we could never, ever pay them what they are truly worth. I celebrate the couples who asked me to officiate their weddings, the parents who invited me to dedicate their children, and the families who called upon me to celebrate the lives of their departed loved ones. Sharing in these rites of passage with you has provided some of the most treasured and lasting memories of my ministry. I celebrate those who welcome strangers when they arrive to our church, those who chose to be a friendly face, who took the time to learn a newcomer's name, who reached out knowing that one of the most important ministries of our congregation is the ministry of hospitality. Your efforts bless the church and the people in it more than you can ever know. I celebrate this congregation for welcoming my family, for giving them the space to participate here on their own terms, and for showing them gratitude for the ways that they too served this congregation through their support of my ministry. And I celebrate Susan, Leah, and Claire, and Marchetti for all that you have made possible for me through your love, your forgiveness, and your understanding. I celebrate this congregation for laughing with me more than you laughed at me. I'm not. not, but I thank you nonetheless. I celebrate you for not rolling your eyes too much when I said creative interchange, or Henry Nelson Wyman, or Bowen family systems theory, or it's all good, or boom! Or you become a member the first time you are disappointed and you come back again and again and again. I celebrate all the teachers of our children, the program leaders, the Faith in Action volunteers, the musicians, the artists, the activists, the racial justice agitators, the cooks, the cleaners, the collaborators, the complainers, the hospitality teams, the queen bees, the worker bees, the Wednesday people, the Saturday people, the Sunday people, the people who sit in the front, the people who sit in the middle, the people who sit in the back. You all comprise this church, this amazing church, this First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. This congregation who called me to be your minister and who did all that you could to help me do it well. I see you all, and I say thank you. Thank you. You have blessed my life beyond measure. The ministers who will follow me could not possibly know how good they will have it here. But I do. Thank you. Thank you.
If you'll turn to page 4 and follow along, join me when it says number. On November 4th, 2001, our congregation installed you as our minister. Let us speak now the covenant we formed that we might honor our promises and then release Reverend Stringer from them. Will the congregation please rise as you are able? And will the members of First Unitarian Church please say this?
Almost 16 years ago, we, the members of First Unitarian Church of Des Moines, installed you, Reverend Mark Stringer, as minister of this church. You pledged to work and walk with us in the spirit of shared ministry. You promised to speak the truth in love, to listen for the truth with an open heart, and to fulfill various offices of ministry, to serve with devotion, and to promote peace, justice, and love within our community and among all people.
You offered me the freedom of the pulpit, asking me to preach with truth, compassion, and courage. You invited me to live among you and walk with you in a search for justice, ministering to you in your joys and sorrows. You asked me to help you live out your faith in your daily lives and nurture your spiritual growth.
We understood that ministry must be shared, and we pledged to share the responsibility for the life of our church. We pledged to speak with honesty, to listen with open hearts, to be mindful of the community needs of both the minister and the congregation. We offer to share our times of gladness and of grief, to be steadfast in our search for truth, and to walk with you in love. We celebrate and thank you for the many ways you have embodied this covenant. In so doing, you have truly been our minister, leader, and teacher. We behold the times when you have fallen short of our covenant with compassion and forgiveness, and we ask that you also hold us with compassion and forgiveness for the times when we have fallen short.
I give thanks for the ministry we have shared. I give thanks for the many ways in which you have upheld this covenant, and I offer compassion and forgiveness for the times when you and I have fallen short.
Mark, thank you for your ministry. We release you from this covenant and send you off in love.
It is the tradition of the Free Church and our Unitarian Universalist heritage that the authority to call a settled minister rests with the congregation. By a vote of this congregation, you called me to a sacred role, entrusting me with a ministry that, in the end, belongs to you. Although my ministry has now moved out of the congregation and into the wider community, and our ministry together has come to an end, the ministry of this congregation will continue. As a symbol of this transition, I now remove my stole, and I return the ministry of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines to you. May you honor and keep this ministry, entrusting it wisely and gracefully with both ordained and lay ministers. May you continue to share this ministry, caring for one another and for the wider community. And may you forever continue on the path of love and growth in spirit that is First Unitarian's gift to the world. So may it be. Amen.
This morning, we have the privilege to bear witness to the transition of our minister from our community into the larger community. Mark, a wise man, has once said, "The ceremony in which we will soon share is both ancient and timeless. In all parts of the earth and from all the earliest days of recorded history, beloved communities have experienced joy, frustration, laughter, and hopefully enlightenment because of ministerial leadership. Over the past 16 years, this beloved community has been witness to and has participated in the dedication of our children by you and Tracy. And now it's our turn to bless you, as you have blessed them before you leave as our minister. Today, we gather in this place to share with mixed emotions this blessing to you, Mark Stringer.
We bless you with this watermark from our blending of the water services. It is an ancient symbol of purity, clarity, and healing. May you see clearly and speak the truth. When you are afraid, may you find your deep inner currents of courage. When you are hurt, let your friends support you while you do the work of healing. And when life has wounded you, may you feel the tide of the eternal rise to bring you to wholeness again. We bless you with this symbolic fire, since we have fire here. from the passion and energy of our social justice work and the warmth we find in being in community, loving community together. May the warmth of this fire remind you of the love.
Sorry.
Remind you of the love in your heart, the passion for living, and whatever your hands and imagination find to do, or the heat on your hand. May the love and support of the people of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines simmer in your soul and remind you you are not alone. Your voice stands not alone. Your continued desire to bend the arc of moral justice is not done, and is not done alone. We bless you with air from our collective breathing in and out. Our thoughts, dreams, and creative interchange. May the winds of the sky and of space dance around you, reminding you of the unlimited possibilities of your life. Who would have thought 16 years ago you would be where you are today, and you would have helped create what we have created together today? You can do whatever you set your mind and heart to. May you always breathe the air of freedom and have a heart and mind that is open to possibilities. And earth, your foot, please. We bless you with earth, from the land that the physical church rests upon. I put this dirt on your shoe and ask that you pause to think of what is sure in this world for you. The love of your family and friends, the wise counsel of youth, peers, and elders, the compassion and acceptance that love has graced upon you throughout your life. Be certain that that will not change as your life leads you forward.
Mark, the choir will end with, it's me. Mark, the choir will end with a blessing. It sums up all our hopes for you. It reads in part, may you go. My wife said I'd do this. May you go forth in peace. May you go forth in love. May your footsteps never falter. May the light shine down from above. May you go forth in joy. May you go forth in song. May your friends be always near you. May your life be loving and long. Thanks.
Spirit of love,
we give thanks for the ministry we have shared together. May we be faithful stewards of our congregation, of Unitarian Universalism, and of our own spirits, now and for years to come. Amen.
I extinguish the symbolic flame of this gathering. May we carry its light into the world.
Let us